Welcome back to another fresh episode of the Rose Quartz Divorce Podcast. We are here to present an alternative way to process divorce, breakups, and grief. My name is Diana D'Amato, and I'm a meditation teacher and grief recovery specialist. And I'm checking in today as really grateful for the fresh beginnings, like new seasons, give to us. Really, I get affected heavily by winter and the darkness, and I see a blue sky, and I'm affected just as heavily. I absolutely feel like warm and fuzzy when I see that blue sky and it starts to get to be spring.
Awesome. My name is Stephen J. Brice. I wear a lot of different hats, but I find myself working as a CEO, executive director for Yoga for the World, teaching yoga and making yoga and meditation accessible to as many people as possible. And I'm checking in as feeling pumped, just finished working out, took a nice midday shower, and I'm ready to conquer the remainder of my day. And so I'm happy to be on this episode. Looking forward to the conversation ahead.
Yeah, I would love to kind of remind people to hop on over to the website as well, rosequartzdivorce.com, because in moving forward in episodes, we'd love to get some feedback from people, whether you have questions or other ideas, ways that you have managed, coped, and renewed yourself after going through something very difficult, because one of the main things we're trying to do here is create more community. You know, Stephen and I both expressed in the previous episode that we felt very alone going through our divorces, and that caused a whole special kind of pain. And one of the things I hope to do is alleviate that for anyone that I can. So reach out, send us a message, we'll talk back, and then we'll, possibly, maybe if you're open to it, we can even present something that you share with us on an upcoming episode.
Yep. So what's on today's agenda? What are we talking
There he
about
is.
today?
There's the CEO. I love you for that. You keep me on track, Stephen, because I'm an ideator. Like, I make ideas, and I need someone to help me thread it through.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's so good to have a partner to ground you in all things.
Likewise.
That's good stuff. I wanted to check back in about we mentioned like trauma in our last episode and how that affects people differently, and how it can do a number on your self-esteem, your confidence, your even awareness of who you are anymore. So I wanted to check back in about what trauma is, and with your background as a counselor and a preacher, what trauma is to you, or how you have seen trauma affect people.
Trauma. Can you hear me?
Yes,
We
you're
good?
good. Mm-hmm.
Trauma. I put my phone on airplane mode and people can still call me. That's weird.
There's no escape. Heavy as the crown, my friend. You are wanted, needed.
I just had this wellness weekend. And I told you a little bit about that, where I disconnected, I unplugged, and during the weekend, I was really sitting with that question: what is trauma? Right? Yeah, I could pull out all of the therapeutic books and the studies I've had over the years, but on the ground level, in simple terms, how can we define what trauma is? And I haven't came to a conclusion, right? But I suspect that trauma is an occurrence or reoccurrence that has happened in someone's life that is in some ways counter cultural or counter what they expected for life to be or to play out, and it plagues them. It causes them to be reminded, second guess, be paralyzed. There's a host of different reactions that folks might have when it comes to trauma. But the trauma itself is when something happens in your life that you more likely was not expecting. It it shocks you, and every time you think about it, you can almost feel the initial feeling and experience of when it first happened. So when I think about my trauma of separation and divorce, I was shocked. Like, did this really happen? Is this really happening? And that begins to also form and shape how you view that category, whether it's marriage, love, whatever the category is. You begin to look at it a little bit differently, and then that becomes a whole amount of work that needs to be done to make sure that you are on the right track and that you have a healthy view of that particular thing. Does that make sense?
It does. And as you were explaining that, I was thinking of a trauma ward. Like if you have an accident, a physical accident, right? And you are rushed into a trauma ward, and there's like a triage team that jumps into action to cauterize and save and bandage and in any way, shape, or form stabilize you, right? But when we have emotional, psychological trauma, there's not a place to rush to. There's
Right.
not like a team that's going to immediately descend on you. And yet it's just as shocking. It's just as debilitating. And like you said, it affects everything that's moving forwards. It's going to shape everything, right? So if you go into an emergency room and you come out and like they had I mean, I feel terrible talking about this, but say you lose an arm or a leg, right? You lose an appendage. I'm trying to be, God forbid. I'm just saying, but like, it's like that, right? Where you've lost a part of you, and yet we're not really treating it in that same kind of emergency way. You're expected to just move forward, even though it changed everything.
So trauma is this terrible event, like, that can change your life, or will change your life, I should say, whether you treat it or not. And the question that all of us have to ask ourselves is, what do I want my life to be moving forward? Do I want it to be led by trauma, or do I want it to be led by the lessons that I've learned, the healing that I've experienced as a result of the trauma that I've experienced or encountered? Right? So will I be passive and I'm reacting and being shaped by the trauma? Or am I going to be intentional and say, yeah, I've been through some shit, but I don't want to stay there, nor do I want it to define me or guide me. I want to put in the surgical work to heal through it, then also put boundaries in place that will protect me moving forward.
And even if we're talking about losing an arm, if I lost my arm, I'd have to relearn how to do all the things I did with that arm, but I'm now without it. When my heart is broken or my psyche is shattered or my emotional well-being is destroyed in whatever way, I'm moving forward without something stabilizing that I'm used to, and I have to relearn how to be myself, how to be in relationships, how to be in social settings, how to be at work. But we are going to carry that forward. I do think that it's possible to find a new way forward that's better, right? And that doesn't discredit anything that you were or had in the past. It's
Hmm.
just, I believe when we are in distress, whether you're having like a cry in the morning or you're, leaving a marriage, it's our soul's way of telling us there's a better way for you.
Right.
There's a better way to organize. There's another lesson for you to learn here. And there's this show called I Survived that, have you ever heard of this show?
No, I haven't heard.
Okay, so it's pretty incredible. And it's all about people who survive trauma, and it's pretty amazing stuff. People that are like stuck in the woods for 24 days alone and somehow they survive, or people that undergo some kind of like very serious trauma and then they move forward. And the thing about the show is like it's so hard to watch until you get to the end. Because then that person tells you, and it's always so inspiring, how whatever happened, and again, it would be hard to watch. It's something very big that happened, shocking, but how it has reshaped them and reorganized their approach to life, and you're just so inspired. And that's the hope, I think, that we present, that moving forward, you will have a new way of reframing what you went through as the initiation of the next steps that you're going to take, of the incredible life that will open up.
Right.
Right? So,
Right.
and that's, as I said, with the community, it's nice because we can reflect that to each other. Because I'm saying this to you now, but when I was going through my divorce, when I was sleeping in my car, when I was unsure if I was going to have food, and these are all very serious but very common things that people go through, I did not see that. So I needed someone to say it to me. And
Yeah.
so now I feel a mission to say it out loud until it reaches the right ears. So this community is so important and personal to me, because I'm very invested in paying that forward. And I think having a community and a person that you can go to as like a divorce doula, like the way we say it, Stephen, a divorce doula will help you sort of be reborn.
Right. Well, how would you define a divorce doula? I think of one who has the capacity, skill sets to walk alongside someone who is going through a tumultuous romantic relationship, marriage, more likely, well, primarily marriage, right? So someone is going through a divorce, and you'll have folks like you and I that will provide the emotional, mental support that is needed and perhaps welcome during that journey, right? So I think about, when I think about our expertise, we bring a mindfulness wellness component that can help folks remember to breathe, to center themselves, to be grounded um, within themselves. Then I think about the therapeutic background that we hold, where we're able to listen very well and to ask gentle questions to help one to think through the various nuances that they're experiencing. And then if welcome, provide some added ideas on how one can move forward. I think about, so we generate a number, collectively we generate a number of different tools, or we have a tools kit to walk alongside folks. And not only just the tools that we have experience, right? And so so when I think about a divorce doula, I think about folks like you and I who walk alongside folks with skill sets and experience. Lastly, compassion uh, for those who are going through a separation and divorce.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, the sort of etymology, if you go back to what doula is, it was a servant. It's a servant to help you along.
Yeah,
And I have that servant's heart, and I see that in you as well. You know, I think that's something that you and I have always connected on in a heart spirit way. So to be there if that person, like I didn't have, I don't have a big family, I don't have siblings, I didn't want to like continually burden my friends, burn them out.
yeah,
You tell them those stories and then it's like you don't want to tell it again, but you need to get it out. You have to talk about it. You need someone to reflect things back to you or give you resources or ideas. That's how, to me, like that servantship can come through in the divorce doula approach, as opposed to, like, I think people might be more familiar with a birth doula, and but this is a rebirth. When you're
yeah,
going through
that's a
a
fact.
traumatic experience, trauma is also a sacred wound that you pass through to
Hmm.
learn your biggest lessons.
That
And
is a fact.
I know it too well. Yes. So, because I don't know if I've ever told you, Stephen, like I come from a single parent household. Um, Raised by my father primarily because my mother passed away when I was just over a year old. And it was not easy, compounded by the fact that my father had a pretty active social life. And so I saw a lot of things and met a lot of his significant others for the moment. And my dad has been married 5 times. So before I was 20 years old, I had been through the divorce process
Wow.
multiple times. So I am very sensitive to the experience. And I feel like there's like very little that I haven't heard or seen or felt firsthand. I've been on many sides of it, very sensitive to the child or children that might be caught up in the process as well, having been on other sides of that. And then now as an adult, I have my own very unexpected, shocking divorce trauma that I've gone through as well. So, having a servant, having like that friend, companion, that doula at any point in time in any one of those traumatic divorces could have changed my life. I'm glad I am here where I am right now, but it has been a rough road. And I would love to be able to ease the burden or just be that person for someone else.
There's a word that sticks out like a sore thumb during your spill. That is a servant. In this day and age, the word servant is often not discussed and is often considered to be triggering. However, I think it's the perfect word for the work that we're doing. We're serving people, attempting to serve people. We are servants. I wonder if we have the courage to bring that word back to mainstream consciousness. I think a lot of people want to be kings and queens, which is fine. Everybody wants to be the boss, but not a lot of people want to serve. And I think our society needs a little bit more servants, folks who are humble and are wanting to redeem humanity. Humanity is fucking up quite a bit in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
And so shout outs to us for having a servant heart. And it might be uh, um, a brag there. I'm not really bragging, but I'm really more so convicted to say that we need more servants, people who are willing to serve each other through difficult situations.
I mean, yeah, I think it's that thing of like wanting to be of service. I know I have something I'm put on earth here to fulfill, right? There is a specific sort of task I shall perform. And I know that being of service will lead me to everything else.
Right.
Whether,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So if you're looking for love, looking for money, you're looking for success, like just go be of service somewhere. You might
Yeah.
be really surprised what happens. I feel like people who are dating all the time, it's like, well, why don't you just go do what you like a whole bunch and see who's there, you know?
Bingo.
Right?
It's really that simple,
Yeah.
right? So I have clients, you know, for Delight Counseling and Consulting Services, a company underneath Brice Enterprise that I own. During the first call, folks will often say, Stephen, can you help me find my purpose? And I would say, go serve a leader that is fulfilling his or her purpose. And it's through your service where you will discover yours, right? I could throw a bunch of books and spiritual sayings. You could fast and pray and do all these different things, which I think are important, but not until you start serving where you'll begin to discover yourself and discover your why in the world.
Yeah. It's like Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers.
Wow.
You're like Mr. Rogers right now. I'm seeing it. But I think that also there are two things that popped up when you said that is like we do have to be discerning about who we're serving, right?
Absolutely.
Said, okay. And also what it made me think of is like, how are we treating our neighbors? Like, it's really important, like, to not just go be of service somewhere that you're going to be seen and acknowledged, right, for that. But are people being nice to their neighbors? Are people, I mean, really, like that
Yeah.
person that comes, to like deliver something to you, do you kind of blow them off? Do you wish they weren't there? Or can you just be nice? Can you just, like, that might be your service that day, is just not blowing off somebody who's providing a service.
Right. Yeah, just be kind. I don't think it costs that much to be kind.
Right, exactly. And it feels good. I always tell my kid this, when she's like mad about something or whatever, it doesn't feel good to be mad at that person. It doesn't feel good, right? But it would feel good to maybe redirect and find someone to that you can feel good about, or something you can feel good about. And I mean, it's really unattractive if you're with somebody and they're being rude to the Uber driver or whatever it is. But the kindness feeling does the same. And I'd say it has an even higher frequency. Love and kindness and compassion and just a smile has a much higher frequency. So it will expand even further. The ripple effects are even better. And it helps heal your own heart, heal your own trauma. People who have healed from serious, severe traumas, you'll often hear them say how, like, they have a heart of forgiveness. They have their loved ones that are important to them, or their pets that they take care of. There's that expression of love. I think that's so important, to heal the trauma, right? And
Yeah.
and we will go through the stages
Yes.
of that trauma. We will have to process it, in various ways. And that, again, is some of the expertise that that we bring along from direct experience of working with many, many thousands of people over the years, and primarily, like, with ourselves. It's like physician heal thyself, that we are able to process the different stages of grief. And I have to put my glasses back on to actually see anything. I always say I have my own personal filter on the world. When I don't have my glasses on, everything's just nice and filtered naturally. They're beautiful. So, the 5 stages of grief, as many people probably learned, it's the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's method. She actually later sort of discounted how much attention these 5 stages got, because grief is so different for everyone. So it was never meant to be like a definitive, this is how it goes step by step kind of thing to her, but it's so easy to grab onto that people did. But the 5 stages of grief, as defined by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So this is like part of the mourning process. The grieving process is we're going to touch on at some point these different feelings, and then probably subsets, right? Because it is so individualized throughout that process. And that's, again, why it helps to have what you bring to the table, what I bring to the table, as ways to move those feelings that are lower vibration through your body so that you can make room.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm glad you made the point where this is pretty much the starting place. And because we are complex beings, 5 stages would suffice for the human experience. So when someone goes through a traumatic experience, an event, that moment sends messages to the individual mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, socially, so on and so forth. It's sporadic, right? And these messages can be similar or different. And so the task of the individual is to slow it down enough, as much as they can, to begin to look inside and ask, what is happening? What is going on? I know what has happened, and maybe there's a point to even ask that question, what has happened? But once you come from a place of knowing what has happened, it's time to then ask, what is happening within me? And so then you'll find yourself going through different ranges of emotions and thoughts and ideas. This is not a 6 month project. In many ways, it could be a lifelong experience for many folks, if not all of us, right? We're all of us, I think, if you're intentional with life, all of us are constantly having to reimagine, unpack past experiences and ask the question, is this showing up right now in my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, so on and so forth, right? I've had a client who was an elderly person, 72 years old, go all the way back to when he was 7 years old,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with molestation for decades.
And it's all buried there in the subconscious, and it's all coloring everything that happens moving forward and how we react and respond to those things. And we all have it. We all have some kind of trauma. So, it's we're we're in that fight or flight or freeze mode a lot of the time until we really dig in and do that work, which is very challenging, but very necessary. Very necessary. Through that traumatic wound, that's where we rise.
Yeah. To our listeners, I want you to chime in real quickly for us. Are are you aware that you are in a traumatic state, or are you dealing with trauma? Say yay or nay, or I'm unsure. I would love to hear from our listeners. Are you living with trauma? Yay, nay, or I am unsure. Yeah. And make sure you subscribe and repost, like, and all that.
Absolutely. That helps us so much, and we really would appreciate it. Before we sign off for today, Stephen, I always strive to bring you something kind of from pop culture, something kind of interesting. So, the last couple episodes, we talked about the wedding and how that's kind of like, the fantasy, and how much drama kind of is is wrapped up in that one experience, as opposed to the whole rest of the marriage. So I found this article that I just wanted to bounce off you and see what your thoughts are on this. Okay, so apparently this is happening. A wedding guest has had their invite to a wedding downgraded multiple times by the bride and groom. So the article goes on to state that they got an original invitation and it was at a +1, and then they got another one and it did not have the +1, and it said, updated. And and then the next one that came was just for the rehearsal dinner.
Wow.
Okay. So are we allowed? Are people allowed to update those things? Is it like you can do whatever you want? It's your wedding, or are we offending people that we might need by our sides in the
For sure.
future, and just not seeing that because we're so wrapped up in the fantasy of the moment?
Right. I think technically, if it is your wedding and you have to make some tough decisions, sure, you have the ability to do that. Now you have to also think about the consequences of that, right? Like you mentioned, you could possibly be burning a bridge. I'm sure there's some context to this story that I don't know of, but it is a dicey situation. But when I think about when I was getting married, because my kid's mom had uh, maybe one or two fewer bridesmaids than the groomsmen that I had to actually ask one of my groomsmen to step down, for being a groomsman. And we're cool to this day. I guess guys are a little bit more easier to deal with. um,
Maybe, yeah, that is really interesting because at my wedding, my partner had a whole bunch of like a crew of guys, and like yeah, and I had my close girlfriends that were involved, but the numbers didn't match, and we didn't talk about it. And I could have brought my numbers up, I guess, to match his, but everyone I suggested, he said no to. And now thinking back, I'm like, whoa, red flag. Why? Why did I? Why did I say no? And I'll just say, by the way, they were his friends and family members that I was just, you're supposed to include the other side too. And he was like, no, don't. You'll regret it.
gotcha.
Anyway, so so we all have our stories, and I mean, I think this is a funny one because, like, if I were getting that invitation in the mail and it was getting downgraded, like, the first time you'd be like, what? The second time you would have to laugh. I mean, come on, you'd be
Right,
like,
right,
what a mess this is. No problem.
right, right. I'll probably just not attend.
Exactly. You're off the hook.
Right.
Which is what a lot of people kind of want when they get a wedding invitation in the mail. I mean, let's face it. Sorry.
Just let me know where the bachelor party is. I'm there.
That's right. Thank you for letting me put you on the spot every episode, Stephen. I love looking for
Absolutely.
those things, and I love your responses. So, so we'll be back with another fresh episode soon enough. But right now, I just want to thank Joshua Bright for our music. and hope that everybody can give us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening. And we'll be back with lots more from the Rose Quartz Divorce Podcast. I'm signing off, Diana, and
Signing off as Steven. Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to get bumpy.
I love you, Steven.
Love you
Ciao.
too. Bye.